60 Minutes Rewind.
Her name is Renée Fleming, and she is quite simply the voice of the moment, celebrated on one hand by a Grammy Award and on the other hand by opera fans all over the world. When we began to follow her at the start of the opera season, we'd been told she was an operatic rarity, a nice person with a sense of humor about opera and herself. Well, she's that and much more, a working woman stretched to the limit by the burden of trying to have it all, a performer whose fierce insecurity offstage is masked by her bold assurance on stage. One critic said, and I'm going to read this, an arresting presence, voluptuous physique, technical mastery, spontaneous abandon. You have anything to add to that?
No.
But do you believe it?
No, of course not.
That's why they call her the diva next door, fresh and free of ego.
Hi.
She's a working mother with 2 small children.
This is the little one.
This is the little one.
Trying to maintain a balance between family and opera stardom.
Mama.
She was not an overnight sensation, but she was a trooper who sang her way through 2 pregnancies.
Right to the end. Yeah. But singing pregnant is easy. All of that work that we do to strengthen our abdominal muscles and to have the work on the diaphragm is done by the baby.
Her break came in 1995, just 3 weeks after her second daughter was born. Fleming took the stage as Desdemona at the Metropolitan Opera, and that night, a star was born. The legendary soprano of an earlier decade, Beverly Sills, was in the hall, a witness to the magic.
She had that moment where that nice hush came over the audience because there was, all you could do was focus in on what she was doing. You know, my mom used to say that some people come on stage and you have to light them with a spotlight. Some people bring the spotlight on with them.
The spotlight's been on Fleming ever since, a cover girl for international magazines. She's booked years in advance by the world's great opera houses.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And for adoring fans,
To Harry, this would be nice.
that particular passion they have for the prima donna.
I think I should be more of one. The classic diva who was the temperamental, self-indulgent, fat, bonbon eating.
Did you try?
I couldn't even bring myself to try. It's just not in me. You have to think you're good when you get out there. Can't walk out apologetically.
Which is your instinct?
Yes. This is my problem.
Excuse me, I'd like to sing.
I'm sorry to burden you with this performance. I'm sure you have better things to do.
Thousands may applaud, critics may swoon, but still, she wonders.
I'll be singing on stage every once in a while and I'll think, if a Martian came down and heard this, what would they think? Why make those odd sounds, One can explain it as a controlled scream, in a way. We are hollering in an extremely cultivated manner.
Do it to the end of the house.
Well, I might hurt you. You're awfully close.
Go ahead.
But for instance, a sound that wouldn't project would have no ping in it. It would be kind of voiceless, kind of nowhere. Has ping.
The voice was born 40 years ago. The Flemings, both music teachers in upstate New York, were determined to put their daughter on the stage. She had the ping, but was desperately shy.
In the school chorus, I would be the voice that would stick out, but you could never put it to the face because I was such a stone face and so absolutely reserved.
But there was a vamp screaming to get out.
I wanted to be more scandalous in 7th grade. I really wanted to smoke and wear stockings and have fights. I mean, that's unfortunately been, my nickname was Miss Perfect.
Miss Perfect went on to study music at the State University in Potsdam, New York, where the vamp got her chance, a weekend singing job at Alger's Pub, a jazz bar near the campus. You miss it?
Very much, yeah. I really do.
Illinois Jacquet, the great saxophonist, wanted her to tour with him, but the Juilliard School of Music wanted her too.
It's totally different than which is why I stopped singing jazz. There aren't enough hours in the day to be really good at 2 things, I don't think.
We first met Fleming last summer at a time when critics agreed that she was reaching the pinnacle of her career. But when we spoke to her, she was still reeling from an operatic fiasco at La Scala in Milan only a month earlier.
I loved the part. I loved my colleagues. I was so excited about doing it. The final dress was a joy. And opening night, disaster.
Fleming and the conductor disagreed about her interpretation of the music. His fans in the audience ran amok in waves and insults and boos.
And I kept singing and I blocked it out.
It must be devastating, though, I guess.
It is devastating, and it may affect me for some time.
What was the conductor's reaction?
Well, he fainted. This is La Scala, I guess. This is, you couldn't write this. I mean.
It's an opera.
Yes.
Opera in Milan is a blood sport, a nightmare for any performer, but particularly for someone like Renée Fleming.
I had a lot of stage fright in the beginning. When I first started singing, when I was auditioning, it was not easy for me. I wasn't somebody who just sort of said, "Ta-da, I'm here, aren't you lucky?"
But do you still have that fear when you go on the stage?
Intensely. And sometimes it's worse than others. Right now, it's very bad.
The effect of all that does not stop at the stage door.
In my case, my marriage has suffered. I have had overwhelming feelings of, how can I do this? How can I continue to do this? I've been very strong. I'm not sure I can keep being very strong.
Her marriage was over. Working mother, now single working mother. All the acclaim may make it even lonelier.
I can't believe we're going to Toronto.
And the sheer exhaustion of singing all night and traveling all day. Beverly Sills knows the torment of that, of going on tour, leaving her daughter behind.
I looked at her and she said, holding her nanny's hand, "Bye-bye, Mama." And then she looked at the nanny and said, "No more, Mama," and walked into the house. It was the most devastating moment of my life. I never will forget that moment. I think Renée is going to have plenty of them.
Girls are at the doctor's being tested for strep throat.
Opera is a very selfish art form. You're constantly worried about those 2 damn vocal cords, and then you come home and the kids have colds.
You don't have to eat it all, but just have a few bites.
But the art form cares little about the life form. Fleming had agreed to a punishing schedule. 3 new operas in
3 months. Time for an operatic laugh, yes. So, it's quite a challenge.
First, there was Blanche Dubois.
Places on stage, please, Miss Fleming.
Andre Previn had adapted A Streetcar Named Desire. He cast Fleming as the tormented Blanche.
Because she's the best female singer in America. It's a very simple answer. I really mean that. I think that there's no one quite like her. And Renée has a vulnerability, a visible vulnerability that not very many singers do.
And growing more vulnerable all the time. Almost overnight, she went from Streetcar in San Francisco to The Marriage of Figaro in New York.
And it was overwhelming. It was emotionally overwhelming. I suddenly felt enormous pressure. Every engagement was high profile.
When you're that good, the pressure to remain that good must be even harder than the pressure to get that good.
I made myself sing those arias in every rehearsal. Again and again and again and again, so that I knew that when I walked out there opening night, there would be no doubt about my personal comfort.
The story will continue after this.
I think the pressures are going to be not vocal and not professional. I think they're going to be family. I think she's going to do some hard thinking. She is not one of these women who lives on high notes.
Too many high notes, too many commitments. As she took her bows in Figaro, the prospect of that third opera, La Traviata, was just too much. She could not go on.
The joy that I had always had in singing, which was intense and in performance and in the entire climb up the ladder of this career, had disappeared completely.
There was a really serious internal struggle going on within her.
That's right.
She withdrew to the mundane pleasures of suburbia to decide whether she wanted to quit her profession for good. She took stock, sought counseling, and perhaps discovered that having it all, for man, woman, or diva, is one of those modern myths. Who does better at her job, the mom or the diva?
I would say the mom. Ultimately, if all of this falls apart, I'll still be the mom. I'll always be the mom.
By last January, Fleming says the joy of singing had come back, and she made a triumphant return to New York's Carnegie Hall and a dozen other cities. The voice was strong and clear and confident. If the nerves or fright were still there, it was impossible to tell.